Welcome back to Goofy Mechs, Mech Warriors, the series where we take a look at silly art from BattleTech and then have a look at mech statistics to see if it's a unit that you should run on the battlefield or if you should judge that book by its cover. Now today's entry is a little bit different because it's an example of how a good artist can make a good drawing and still have it look very silly. Today we're looking at the Blood Kite, which is a fairly old clan design from 2904, designed by Clan Blood Spirit. And the first piece of art we're looking at is from Sam Wood, who you will know from previously in this series as the guy who made some very nice full-color art for the BattleTech CCG. And he is the one who gives us the original design of the Blood Kite, which isn't like super well defined here. This piece of art looks to me like it's unfinished. This looks like a first draft that an artist would send in before then fully coloring it in or cleaning up some of the sketchier lines to make it look more professional. Not that it looks bad, it's just that the inking doesn't really reveal a lot of the details. Most of the details of the mech seem to be hidden in shadow, and I think that that is actually exactly what happened. I'm fairly sure that Sam Wood probably sent in a bunch of concept sketches for a bunch of different battle mechs for the Field Manual Crusader Clans book, because a bunch of his art is in that book, and it all looks kind of like this, very sketchy and looking a little bit unfinished. As an example, here is the Hellfire from the same book. The cannon up here looks a little bit wonky and bent, and I mean, look at the missile pods too. They're just a bunch of quick little circles that he's drawn with maybe a little bit of shading on them. This seems very clearly meant to be a rough draft. So with that in mind, that this likely was never meant to see the inside of the book, I'm gonna give this overall a passing grade. This looks really good for a sketch. This is better than a lot of the final art that we've seen on this channel for other mechs. For example, last week's nightmarishly bad mongoose art that we covered. This art style is really interesting. I like Sam's art style. These were mechs that he was given the freedom to design himself without any past interference. You'll remember that his mongoose redesign was actually quite good for the CCG, and when given free reign, he's able to create some very interesting and different looking mechs. So on both torsos, there are big jump jet packs, I guess you would call them, that stick out from the shoulders, and this thing has some really weird feet. It's got two big toes on the front and a gigantic heel in the back. To me, it actually looks like this was meant to be maybe some kind of like tank tread. So like a tank tread on this thing in the back and then on these two in the front, and this thing can just kind of drive around on its tank treads, and then the jump jets allow it to get up into higher areas and increase its mobility. And it's definitely designed to look like a big, bulky, and heavily armored assault mech, which this mech is. It's an 85-ton assault mech. It has equivalent armor to a Battle Master, which is famously big and blocky looking. And like many other clan mechs, it has guns for hands. We have a big cannon on the one side that's an ER large laser, and then we have a bunch of missiles on the other side. We'll get into that in a moment. Conspicuously missing from this design is any sort of head or really any denotation of the cockpit, and there is also a big missile pack missing as well. There's supposed to be 3 LRM-15s. I think due to perspective, the third one is missing. But overall, despite the sketchiness, I think that this is a pretty cool mech design, and it's a great basis to start from for the redesign by Matt Plog. So Plog is one of my favorite BattleTech artists. He's really good, and this is no exception. Now, the design is kind of ludicrous. We have a mech here with like so many weapons. Weapons are just bristling from absolutely everywhere. 2 big missile pods, 3 ER large lasers, and 3 SRM-4 packs. Now, the funniest thing here is that one of the SRM-4 packs is strapped to the side of the LRM-15 pack. Yo bro, I heard you like missiles, so I got some missiles to put on your missiles. Now, one of the ER large lasers is mounted in the head. So this is the cockpit right here, this little couple of panes of glass, and then below it, dominating where the head would be, is a giant laser snout, so I love that. Kind of reminds me of the mongoose, honestly, with a giant laser for a mouth. And I waited to talk about them until until now, but I don't know what these are supposed to be. I'm guessing that these are propellant for the jump jets, which seems kind of strange to have them mounted on the outside, but it's not the only battle mech design that I've seen that has something like this. The Firestarter has a similar thing going on, like what look like big, basically propane tanks strapped to the shoulders, presumably armored and containing some kind of propellant. So I'm not too concerned about that. What I am concerned about is the giant crotch vents. This is directly where the gyro is, meaning that these vents here are a massive bullet trap and are probably going to cause you some problems. This is definitely a design flaw. And then on the feet, we also have two big vents here, which I guess are armored. Like there's a big, I guess you would call it armored sabaton that is protecting it from most things getting in. But I kind of wish that they would have used my sort of weird design of putting tank treads here instead of big vents. I think that would have been a cool and unique thing. This thing just rolls around on its tank feet instead of using primitive things like knee and ankle joints, because it would actually give a reason for the very strange foot design that we have here. This is like really over-engineered and overcomplicated for no reason. Also, this thing down here, I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be. This, and this are ER large lasers. Is this some kind of targeting system for the missiles? I guess you do have two missile launchers in the same location. Maybe you need a big and complex targeting system to guide your missiles in. Maybe it's a targeting system for all of the missile racks, because this thing does have a truly ludicrous number of missiles. 45 LRMs and 12 SRMs is pretty impressive, even for an assault mech, especially when paired with 3 ER large lasers. And as anyone who's been watching for a while knows, I don't really like extraneous extra bits of stuff. What's going on with all of the extra stuff all over the place? Like, we've got a really weirdly designed arm here, and I don't understand why there's like this here, and there's a separate assembly here for something. I guess this is protecting the shoulder, but then this is the actual shoulder joint, and it looks pretty well armored, so why do we need all of this crap over here? And both of the legs are also like pretty over-engineered and have a lot of extra crap on them for no reason. And what are these like big access hatches on the lower legs? I don't know what those are there for. By the way, I'm actually kind of fine with all these little scratches and stuff that he's put onto the legs. That's a totally fine detail to add onto a mech, in my opinion. You add some scratches to the open surfaces to fill in empty space. That makes a lot of sense. Adding a bunch of gubbins and like weird little lines and a triangle and what looks like maybe an access hatch on the bottom of the missile rack. I mean, maybe this right here is for like reloading missiles into the arm. There is actually 1 ton of reloads in the arm with the LRM-15 in it. So maybe that's what that's for there. But what is this triangle up here for? This doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's a targeting thing, but then what's this down here? I don't know. Anyways, enough griping about designs. Let's look at some statistics. We have the OG Blood Kite here. 3 ER large lasers, 1 in the arm, 1 in the CT, 1 in the head. Great locations for main energy weapons. This is fantastic. I love to see it, because that means that even if the arms get knocked off, this thing still has 2 ER large lasers to fight with. To back up those 3 ER large lasers are 3 LRM-15s. So this thing has overwhelming firepower at long range. However, it doesn't have nearly enough heat sinks to fire all of these weapons together. All of the long-range weapons firing together produce 51 heat. So most likely you're going to be firing the 2 ER large lasers and the 3 LRM-15s. That keeps you heat neutral even while jumping, which is pretty good consistent firepower that you can put out turn after turn. Then for close range we have 3 SRM-4s to back things up. Now this is an interesting design choice because by the time the enemy gets to this mech, which is most likely sitting in the back because it is very slow with 353 movement, their armor has probably been opened up, so you can hit them point blank with 3 SRM-4s and 3 LRM-15s because clan LRMs have no minimum range. We also have plentiful ammo for all of the weapons except for the SRMs, but I don't mind that because this is definitely designed as a dedicated long-range fire platform, so only having 1 ton of SRM-4 is not that bad. That's 8 rounds of fire for your SRM-4s, which is plenty for a mech that probably doesn't want enemies to get close anyways. And we have 16 shots for each of your LRM-15s. which again is plentiful. The field sustainability of this unit is very good, especially because it does have all of those backup energy weapons. Even if you run dry on ammo, you still have 3 ER large lasers to shoot people with. Rugged and easy to maintain as the quirks mean that this is a very sustainable machine. It's going to be able to stay in the field for a long time, not requiring maintenance, and that is always a very good thing to have. And this thing is pretty ridiculously durable. We have 30 armor on the legs, 24 on the arms, 27 on the side torsos, and 39 on the CT. Even in the rear, it's pretty tough. 9 on the side torsos and 12 on the CT. Very impressive armor overall. And we have a standard fusion engine, so losing the side torsos, like, this thing just doesn't care. And because it's a clan mech, even though it's not included on the equipment, it has case. So if those ammo bins go up, you don't care that much. You lose your side torso, oh well, we've lost a few heat sinks. We can still fire most of our weapons just fine. And with that 3 jump, it is able to get into a nice high position with good lines of sight and reposition pretty easily down from such a position, or move through forests much better than its otherwise very slow pace would indicate. Now, the only problem with this mech is the battle value price tag. This thing is expensive. Nearly 2,800 battle value is a big price tag. There are some direwolves that are not as expensive as this mech, and it's because of the jump jets. This inflates battle value pretty significantly. Also, it doesn't have the best heat management, so it actually can't make use of all of those powerful long-range weapons all at once. So overall, despite its great durability, its reasonable mobility, and its great firepower, I can't really recommend this mech just because it is so expensive. And the same is going to go for the Blood Kite too, which is even worse. They've strapped Artemis to a couple of the LRMs and stripped one of them out for a light active probe and 3 ER PPCs, which is just awful. I mean, this is gonna overheat like crazy. It can't even fire the 3 ER PPCs without overheating, let alone mixing in the missiles. And at well over 3,000 battle value, it is quite simply far too expensive for me to recommend. So let me know what you think of the Blood Kite in the comments down below. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff helps out the channel immensely. And go check out some of my other BattleTech content. Thanks so much for watching, Mech Warriors, and have a great day.